anybody making the case that they're similar defenders, there's a lot of data that doesn't support that. Now, to the graph. All right. So what I've done here as a way to illustrate my point is I have taken the last 3 seasons of basketball for both guys, and I went back to look at who did they spend the most time in individual defensive matchups guarding. Now, on the graph in front of me, what I've done to make this easier to understand is I put everybody in green who's been an NBA All-Star. I put everybody in red who has averaged 20 or more points in a game. And then I calculated their success rate. Now, one of the things any Hawks fan will tell you is that the reason DeAndre Hunter is enjoying a career season this year is because he has not been tasked with the addition of a Dyson Daniels and a Zachary Risacher of having to always take the most difficult defensive matchup this season. And they believe that that's helped contribute to him staying healthier, to avoiding the recurring knee injuries. And during the process, what you would see if you looked at the data is over the last 3 years, he has taken on the very best of the best people defensively. Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell. All these guys are in his top 10 guys that he defends in terms of just the minutes he spent guarding them over the course of the past 3 seasons. Now,
it's quite a different list. I mean,
it is. It's quite a different list. And what you would see, listeners, is that as the years have progressed and they've taken the defensive workload more away from DeAndre to shift it to some of these great defenders they've added in a Dyson Daniels, is that this year, the guys he's faced off with the most, he has held them to 32%. The top 10 guys he spent time covering this year, he's held them to 32%. You go back a couple seasons where he's facing much more elite superstar level players, some final MVPs in the mix, and those numbers are closer to mid 40%. Meanwhile, Cam, on the other hand, hasn't had the toughest assignments. He has a litany of gray highlighted guys, which is the JAG column, the just a guy column. And his defensive metrics have gotten worse over the last 3 years in terms of 30% 3 years ago. He held guys to 35 2 years ago to 42% this year. So if you just parallel this year, even taking on conventionally weaker people than he did the 2 previous seasons, DeAndre Hunter has been more successful against elite offensive players than a Cam Johnson, who typically is hit a lot more. So I understand when people look at things like, rim defense and some of these metrics that are all inclusive, they do paint the picture that these guys are similar. But McNuggets acknowledged DeAndre Hunter, at least for our team, the reason I think he's substantially better defensively is because he's stronger, he's got a longer wingspan, he's more capable of guarding up towards bigs, which I think is something that is important for our specific roster construction. And just secondarily, I think there's a load of data, both eyeball test and through advanced stats, that would show you that DeAndre Hunter doesn't get enough credit for the fact that he typically draws some of the more elite assignments in the league. And that speaks to the fact that even if you don't believe that he's a substantially better defender than Cam Johnson, his coaching staff clearly does.